Peace, family, and welcome to Shifting the Culture podcast. I'm your host, Brother King Cam, and this is a breaking news moment. I know many of y'all probably heard and seen about Lil Durk being arrested. So I got the article pulled up here where it says Grammy-winning rapper Lil Durk charged with orchestrating 2022 Los Angeles killing. Grammy award-winning rapper Lil Durk charged with orchestrating 2022 Los Angeles killing. So let me go ahead and let me do this. All right, so it says that Grammy award-winning rapper Lil Durk has been arrested in Florida on federal charges that he paid for the attempted 2022 revenge killing of rapper Quando Rondo at a Los Angeles gas station, a shooting that resulted in the death of Rondo's cousin. Durk, 32, is charged with conspiracy to commit murder for hire in the slaying of Sylvius Robinson, 24 years old, who was gunned down on August 19, 2022, according to FBI affidavit released Friday. 5 other members of Durk's Chicago-based rap collective, Only the Family of OTF, have been arrested, and at least 2 more arrests may be forthcoming, according to court documents that have been filed. Durk was arrested Thursday night in South Florida and as he attempted to flee the country, the FBI says. So we're not gonna keep going down that route. But it says right here, FBI agent Sarah Cochran said in her affidavit that OTF members engage in violence, including murder and assault, at the direction of banks and to maintain their status in OTF. And this is the part right here. According to, authorities say, this is it. According to Cochran's affidavit and other federal court records, the shooting stems from the November 2020 slaying of OTF rapper King Von, 26, at an Atlanta nightclub after Von and Rondo got into a fight. Records say a friend of Rondo's pulled a gun and shot Von several times, killing him. Von, whose real name was Davon Bennett, had 2 hit singles, Crazy Story, and Took Her to the O. All right, family. So what we know, and many of us understand, right? We know that, like it just mentioned, that in 2020, Von got into it with Quando Rondo at the nightclub, and Von was killed. We know Von was part of the OTF camp. That's Lil Durk camp. Him and Durk was tight, and they saying that the 2022 shooting was a retaliatory shooting against Rondo for what happened to Von. And they're saying Durk is the one that greenlit that. So if you're familiar with the history in the streets, then you know kind of what was going on and the back and forth that was taking place as far as that was concerned, right? So now, 2024, they arrest Durk, and they saying that this is he's charged with orchestrating the 2022 shooting. They calling it a murder for hire. And I was talking to somebody today about this, and this just occurred to me, and that's why we had to do this show. Because I just thought about something, and I want to bring it to y'all about this analysis that I just had. Because what we saw recently in the last few years of Durk is a transformation. We've been seeing a transformation from Lil Durk as it pertains to his spirituality. We've been seeing the transformation in some of his music and the positive messages that he's been putting out in the last few years. We've seen him get more involved in community engagement, trying to uplift the people. And this occurred to me because I was on a study in this book called, and you've seen me do this on my podcast multiple times, in this book right here, Exposing the War Against Islam. Exposing the War Against Islam. And it says an analysis that uncovers the causes, culprits, and conspiracies behind the orchestrated rise in Islamophobia. Okay, this is very important. Also, the hip hop conspiracy from our good brother, student minister, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, how rap music was weaponized against Black America. So we got these two books right here that's going to help lay the basis for what's going on with Durk. So I want to read this because it's important. All right, read this one first. So it says, and this is out of Exposing the War Against Islam, the New Era Islamophobia. A quote from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Islam will put the black man of America on top of the civilization. The book goes on to read, since the inception of the New World, its leaders knew that Islam conflicted with the deceptive, genocidal, slave-making principles of upon which this country was founded. America's leaders have long known that a day would come when justice would haunt what this country has done, especially to the indigenous people of the earth. Thomas Jefferson expressed these sentiments with his fellow slave-holding colleagues. Indeed, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, that his justice cannot sleep forever, that considering numbers, nature, and natural means only, a revolution of the wheel of fortune, an exchange of situation is among possible events, that it may become probable by supernatural interference. So what he's saying is that because of the justice that we have not given, God himself is going to deliver justice, and he's going to intervene in the justice process to the indigenous and darker people of the planet Earth. So this right here shows you that this is telling us that Islam, it's helping us to understand that Islam is directly opposed to Western society. Okay? So follow me, because I'm about to cook. Follow me, I'm about to cook. So this right here. Islam conflicts with Western greed. In a world based on greed and exploitation and inordinate self-interest, it comes to no surprise that such a world would not be favorable to the righteous principles that Islam aims to instill. Okay? Very important. Very important. This has remained an ongoing conflict since the revelation of the Holy Quran. In the 7th century, the early Muslims were seen as a threat by the ruling Arab tribe, the Quraysh. The Muslims were perceived this way not so much because of their belief, but because of their growing community in Medina was in close proximity to the lucrative trade routes that stretched from Mecca through Medina and on to the rich markets in Syria. As the Muslims grew in number and power, the Quraysh and their Jewish allies feared that this new force of believers in the one God, Allah, would soon have the ability to disrupt the flow of goods through that region, and that made Islam an economic threat. The fact that Islam posed a threat to the exploitive profits of the Arabian tribes brought a major conflict between the Muslims and those leaders of Mecca who benefited from the ignorance, tribal warfare, and slave dealings of the Arabs. This prompted the Banu Nadir Jews to plot to kill the Prophet. So Islam comes and it sets apart truth from falsehood. Islam comes as a clean glass to the dirty glass that Western powers represent. Islam comes to unify, to dignify, and erase all of the oppression, all of the oppressive tactics, all of the wickedness and unrighteousness and uncivilized behavior that Western governments and society have put into place. So Western governments fear Islam. I'm going to keep going. They fear Islam. Since the Holy Quran was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, they have been fearing Islam. What that got to do with Durk? I'm getting to it. Just sit with your brother for a second. Okay? Because what we have seen with our brother Lil Durk is not only has he changed direction, but he's rededicated himself in the faith. in the spiritual upliftment and the study as a Muslim in Islam. And because Durk has influence and because Durk has power in the city of Chicago specifically, and has been using his platform to continuously promote Islam, that in and of itself is a problem. Now, I'm not saying that Durk hasn't done anything in his past, because anybody who hasn't sinned, you can go ahead and stand up. As the minister said, I want to meet the one that hasn't sinned. I want to meet Jesus. All right. So if you're not Jesus, then you fall right in the same category with the rest of us who have sinned. So I'm not saying that Durk hasn't done anything in his past. What I'm saying is, though, this particular situation has come up because Durk has used his platform to encourage black men specifically and black people as a whole to come to Islam. He's using his platform to call people to Islam, and that's a problem. It's been a problem since the 7th century when the Holy Quran was revealed to Prophet Muhammad and started cleaning up the Arabs, and it's a problem today. And what you're seeing is the war against Islam. So I can get into a bunch of details on the things that the U.S. government has done to war against Islam, but that'll take us into a whole nother show. We want to keep this focused on Durk. But that's what this is about. And let me tell you why. Because you say, well, Durk isn't in the Nation of Islam. So what does that have to do with his practice of Islam and the war against the Muslims in Islam in America? Because in our minds, we think that, the Nation of Islam is some Rudy Poo offshoot, outlier group of Muslims who are not on pace or not aligned with what people call Orthodox Islam or mainstream Islam. Well, let me help you out, because see, it wouldn't be no mainstream Islam. It wouldn't be no Orthodox Islam in Black America if it wasn't for the Nation of Islam in Black America. So this point is extremely important because it highlights what I just said. According to studies from all around the globe, Muslims are the fastest growing religious group in the world. The Pew Research Center continued, indeed, if current demographic trends continue, the number of Muslims is expected to exceed the number of Christians by the end of this century. The historic and current growth of Islam has especially been among Black and brown populations. This is true in America. Quote, Islam is described as the fastest growing religion in the U.S. There are various factors that contribute to this phenomenon, including immigrants arriving in recent decades from Muslim countries, including India, Pakistan, and in the Middle East. In addition, many individuals convert to Islam. This is particularly true among African Americans and more recently, Latinos. But look at this. The phobias associated with the growth of Islam is far more than just a normal gesture of people accepting a new religion. Rather, this growth represents a change of mindset that signifies a spiritual, psychological, and social exodus from white-based Western rule. Okay? Now, it says that in America, the most popular group of Muslims have been those in the Nation of Islam. I'm going to read that again. In America, the most popular group of Muslims have been those in the Nation of Islam. Its leadership and message have been highly influential in changing the social landscape of Black America and the world. While most Muslims in the U.S. are not directly a part of the mostly Black Muslim group, the rise of Islam in America is largely due to their influence. The NOI has produced the likes of Elijah Muhammad, whose Reader's Digest recognized as the most powerful Black man in America, Imam W.D. Muhammad, Malcolm X, and Muhammad Ali, who became the most popular name on earth at one time. and of course, Minister Farrakhan, who led the largest, most peaceful demonstration of black unity in world history, the Million Man March. All were fashioned from the ranks of the Nation of Islam. So what does that have to do with Durk? Even though Durk is not a part of the Nation of Islam, Durk has sat with the minister. Durk has love for the minister. Durk has love for the Nation of Islam. And whether Durk is in the ranks as a registered member of the Nation of Islam or is a supporter or sympathizer of the Nation of Islam doesn't matter. The fact that he has support for us, but also is a Muslim himself and is using his platform to promote Islam to black people is a problem and had put a target on his back ever since he made that transition. And you tell me I'm lying. So now all of a sudden now, they are interested in solving black on black crime. All of a sudden now, the feds are so interested in solving black on black crime, intervening and stopping black on black crime, that now they have ultimately used his crew, infiltrated his crew, because it's articles out there saying, and it said in this CNN article that 5 members of Durk's crew was arrested, right? And obviously probably questioned by law enforcement. But they're saying that one of his people had a wiretap on him and all of that kind of stuff. So, for 10 years and all of this kind of foolishness. So what they want us to believe is that, the U.S. government is so concerned about black crime, about crime and violence in the black community, that they did all of this to try to take down, this brother because of the crime and the violence. No, we got to stop that. We're not that naive today. We not that slow today. We not on that today. You can't get us with that. What this is they're using that as a cover. They're using the beef between OTF and Quando Rondo and Vaughn and his situation as a cover to come after Durk, to really pull his platform down and to tear down his reputation and to destroy his character. So those who would hear Durk call them to Islam, they say, man, we don't want to be a part of that. How are we going to be a part of something like that? And you out here with committing murder for hires, which go against the principles of Islam. See, you got to get into the psychology of this thing. See, the psychological aspect and the psychological warfare. They don't like Muslims because Muslims have always fought against white supremacy. I'm going to say that again. Western powers don't like Muslims because Muslims have always stood up against white supremacy. You're not going to have us protesting in the streets and then you come with water hoses and dogs and police and bully clubs and beat the Muslims up. That's just not how we roll. That's not how the Quran expects you to behave once you believe in the one God whose true name is Allah. That's not how that's supposed to go. You're not going to have us in any situation where you just come beating on us and we just going to accept you oppressing us and accept you keeping us in bondage. Islam is what gave the Africans the will to fight. Islam is what disrupted a lot and created a lot of those slave uprisings. As I mentioned earlier and alluded to earlier, Islam is what interrupted the Arab slave trade. But people want to tell you that the Arab slave trade was pushed by Muslims who was practicing Islam. They won't practice in Islam if they was dealing in slavery. That's anti-Islamic. They was pushing Arab tradition. See, Arab cultural norms is what they was into. And because we didn't know no better, we assumed that that's what Islam promoted. Wrong. So the inordinate self-interest, the usury, the greed, the degenerative behavior, the oversexuality, the homosexuality, all of that Western powers have set up and promoted to the people and have encouraged that lifestyle. All of that is anti-Islamic. All of that is anti-Bible. All of that is anti the teachings of Jesus. All of it is diametrically opposed to what we have been taught in the scriptures. So they've been warring against Islam. And this is just one of their ways to try to rope off the promotion. You heard me earlier explain that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the United States of America, especially within the black community. Well, why is that? Y'all done seen it. It's happening all over social media. Everybody keeps saying, oh, everybody keep converting to Islam. Brittany Renner, she a Muslim. And then this other person a Muslim. And then this other, Lil Jon, he became a Muslim. You see Durk getting back, and he getting back on his deen. You see Rollo, he back out here, back on his deen. And you said everybody converting to Islam. Yeah, the government saw that. The government knows this. And they know when you get and hear the voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and you hear Islam as taught by the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and exemplified by the minister, you get a whole new type of thinking. You can't be a slave no more. Once you hear that wisdom coming from the minister, you can no longer be a slave. Once you accept Islam, you can't be a slave. So because Islam takes you out of the mindset of a slave, they don't want black people coming to Islam. They don't want black people hearing the true teachings of Jesus. They don't want to hear about what the Bible says, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. They don't want to hear about how the Quran talks about when the righteous are aggressed upon, we fight with those that fight with us. We're not going to bother you. But when you bother us, we got the God-given right to fight with those that fight with us. The Quran promotes that. So they don't want black people being able to stand up and resist and rise against white supremacy. So as we know, the government has used hip hop as a tool to control black people and to control culture and to control black America and the black community. This is just a fact. So Student Minister Dr. Wesley did a presentation at Mos Mariam, and he lifted words from Hillary Clinton, where she confessed to how they use hip hop to control the masses of the people. This is the actual fact. This is coming from Hillary Clinton. Okay? So you ain't gotta go back and forth with me about it. Talk to Hillary about it. You know her record in the government. She's solid. So look at this video of Student Minister Dr. Wesley giving us the quote from Hillary Clinton on how they use hip hop to control the masses. Check it out.
Chelsea follows rap music. She has ever since she was a little girl. But I kind of came to awareness of you with the Cardi B WAP.
I've always wanted to do a song with Cardi. As soon as she sent me the song, I think I sent it back.
Did you know that in 2010, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton openly admitted that hip hop was a tool at the U.S. government's disposal? Did you know that? She described hip hop as one of many chess pieces that the government moves around on the board in a, quote, multi-dimensional chess game. Hip hop is like a beautiful black stallion, and whoever is saddled atop it and holds its reins in their hands can determine, or at least help determine, the fate of black America. The black stallion, hip hop, can lead black people towards redemption, or it can lead us toward degradation and doom. Who's writing hip hop today?
But I kind of came to awareness of you with the Cardi B WAP.
I've always wanted to do a song with Cardi. As soon as she sent me the song, I think I sent it back.
And as you can see right there, brothers and sisters, Hillary Clinton admitting that hip hop is a tool at the disposal of the U.S. government. So because they use hip hop to control the masses, especially black and brown people, they don't want anybody in the hip hop community who has influence to be encouraging their fan base to come to Islam. They don't want anybody in their hip hop community to be encouraging people to come and hear from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. They don't want that to happen because they have to keep control over hip hop. So anything that's going on in hip hop, they got to make sure that they keep it on the up and up as far as what they got going on, their program. No, push degradation, push violence, push the destruction of black women, push all of these different things. But don't ever talk about freedom, justice, and equality. Don't ever put consciousness in your music. Don't ever expose what we're doing in the music. Don't ever, ever, ever promote Islam in your music. Because at that point in the game, they know that their time is up. So that's what I think this truly is about when it comes to Durk. All right. That's what I think it's about when it comes to Durk. And I want to read something. I'm going to close out with this. I'm closing with this. Closing with this one, family. From Student Minister Dr. Wesley book. Okay. The weapon is the hip hop conspiracy. All right. So this one says in the introduction, it says the meeting. On April 24th, 2012, Ivan Rott from Hip Hop is Red received an email. The anonymous author claimed to be a former record executive who was present at a secret meeting that changed rap music and destroyed a generation. The meeting allegedly occurred in 1991 at a private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles and was attended by 25 to 30 decision makers of the music industry. After being asked to sign confidentiality agreements, the main presenter of the meeting got to the point. He told us that since our employers have been silent investors in these prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remain filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by marketing music which promotes criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies, and as an employee, we'd also be able to buy personal stocks in these prisons. Immediately, silence came over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. I remember looking around to make sure I wasn't dreaming and saw half of the people with dropped jaws. So when we look at the tool that hip hop is for the U.S. government and the fact that the U.S. government, we know in the 1994 crime bill that private prisons was now incentivized and that the U.S. government would be making money off of criminality. And the fact that they would use hip hop as a tool to promote criminal behavior should not be shocking to you. And do we know that any disruption in that criminal behavior, any disruption of the way that they say hip hop or rap should go will cause problems for anybody? Durk was a part of a gang. Durk was a part of criminal, might have allegedly have been part of different things happening in the street. So do you know how much money the government would lose if Durk started cleaning up the streets? Do you know how much money the government would lose The state would lose if Durk started pushing peace, which is what Muslims do. We promote peace. Do you know how many people would be out of a job? Do you know how many DA's offices would be empty? Do you know how many prisons would have less prisoners? How many sheriffs wouldn't have a job? How many police wouldn't have a job? How many judges, lawyers, and prosecutors wouldn't have a job? You talking about disrupting the whole criminal justice ecosystem by just being Muslim and promoting Islam. So no, they couldn't have that. They could not have that. So I don't know, family. We're going to see how this whole thing plays out. We want to make sure that we keep Lil Durk and his family in prayers, but we always have to be on the lookout. We always have to be on the lookout for the hidden hand. And I encourage you all to get these books. Get these books, because the enemy strives to keep us ignorant to what they're doing. And if you don't have the information that will arm you against what they're doing, then you'll think that Durk is just some thug out here committing crimes, and this person is just doing this, especially when it's dealing with our people. They've never been just to us. They've never been fair to us. So when they coming after us, trust and believe there's a play behind why they coming after us. It's not what it seems on the surface. All right? So we got to always make sure that we are paying attention to that. And we have to be thankful for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because these books are written by students of the minister. This book is written by student minister Ilya Rashad, who's on the research team of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. This book is written by student minister Dr. Wesley Muhammad, who's also on the research team of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So we had to be thankful for the minister, because he called this stuff out back in the 80s. The minister was calling this out in the 80s. So we have to be thankful for him, as student minister Dr. Wesley says, for being the watchman on the wall. People don't understand the importance of what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was telling us and teaching us. He was warning us of the things that would come. He was telling us what the government's plans were for us before we even knew what we was walking into. The minister was warning us in the 80s about this, and we didn't take the guidance. As the minister said, the fool wouldn't listen to the guide. So we had to be thankful for the minister, because he done put us on game. He done produced these beautiful students of his that produce scholarly works. See, it's one thing to say stuff on the internet, but it's a completely different thing to put your information in book form and cite sources, primary and secondary sources, where you got the information from, and it leaves it now available for those who would like to research, those who would like to weigh the information, those who would like to fact check you. See, when you're just saying stuff on the internet, that's one thing. Nobody can really fact check what you're saying, because you're not pointing to any sources. But in these books, bam, this got sources in it, got footnotes, so you can fact check. This book right here, sources, information, you can fact check it. Fact check it and respect it. All right, family. So that's all I got. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum.